Welcome to the Porsche Club Insider, your one stop for all things Porsche and PCA. Here's your host, Vu Gwyn, and the Insider crew.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 27. We have got a full crew here. I've got Manny, PCA's technical director, Damon Lowney, PCA's digital media coordinator. We've got Robert Forsyth back on the machines and making sure everything's connected. And special guest back to the mic is PCA's marketing director, Jim Hemmig.
Hello, hello.
Hey, so, we haven't had a whole lot in between our last podcast and this podcast other than doing everything related to SportsCar Together Fest. So I think a lot of it today is about that, but we certainly have some news, some video updates, and upcoming event updates. But before we get into that, just want to make sure that we say thank you to NC Golfer, who gave us 5 stars and wrote a little comment. And I saw a number of comments on YouTube.
Yes, yeah, very in fact, the amount of views on YouTube, which, we were talking YouTube wasn't our primary platform. We just did it for members who were asking. But since we moved everything in-house and with Robert now at the controls, it's really changed up the YouTube experience. And so more and more people are gravitating to watching YouTube because all the pictures.
Yeah, it's just one more thing we're doing to make our members happy. Obviously, I get the metrics that we're watching for the podcast only counts when people are listening to it on either the Apple or the Google platform. But certainly, if you enjoy it on YouTube and you like to see the photos as well, you're welcome to it. We'll monitor those metrics as well. So where do we even start? There's so much to go over.
Well, I got to start off by saying, we always scratch our head at the name of this event, SportsCar Together Fest.
Just rolls off the tongue, huh?
Yeah, and Porsche doubled down on it. They had a chance to get out of it, but they doubled down. And I even asked our German friends from Porsche EG, does that sound good from a German speaker? Like some German words sound good to us, but like Farfennugen. And he laughed and shook his head. He goes, no, it doesn't. It doesn't sound good to us either. But they're sticking with this name,
Yep.
SportsCar Together. I can only imagine someone really high up in Porsche came up with this idea. But I read a great comment on one of the threads about SportsCar Together Fest on Reddit. And it said, SportsCar Together Fest sounds like a Chinese translation. And I thought, that really is what sums it up.
I was just going to say, it sounds like whoever came up with that name was trying to make it sound like a German came up with it or something, right? Maybe doesn't have a full grasp on English, but
so,
I don't know.
So for those that don't know what, maybe haven't listened to our podcast or is new, why don't we share with folks what SportsCar Together Fest was or is?
I think Porsche's still trying to figure that out. I think originally it was SportsCar Together Day, and it was the date he picked, and the idea was everyone around the world, dealerships, everything would celebrate Porsche, and the idea of SportsCar Together is that every Porsche made is a sports car, regardless of a 4-door or a 2-door, they're all sports cars. And we were in Germany when they had the first SportsCar Together Day, so they had a huge festival in Stuttgart, and it was pretty cool. And dealerships in the U.S. did some celebration, but no one really understood. I don't think anyone really understood the purpose behind. So when they came with SportsCar Together Fest, everyone thought it was going to be a mini Rennsport, and it didn't turn out to be that. It was racing, but there was no vintage racing. There was no 917s or 956s, and no legends of motorsports either.
It seems to be the focus is on current platforms.
So I think they have that to work on to establish what it really is. But the people that were there had a good time, and I don't think they're going to do it next year simply because they're going to be busy with Rennsport.
It would be surprising if they do it next year because it's so time frame. It's so close.
I highly doubt it. I think if it happens again, obviously it'll be the year after 2024.
But then the year after, they'll go back to it possibly as sort of like the annual celebration.
Yeah, maybe they'll take it on the road. It's certainly something they could take on the road. It's not exclusive to, we had an example of why Rennsport should be in Laguna, is that it rained a couple times during the event. That's something you don't have to worry about at Laguna Seca because it doesn't rain.
Right.
For better or for worse, it doesn't rain. So, we had to batten down the hatches, and there was high wind warnings. It only lasted about an hour and a half, but still,
it changes the mood.
Sure.
And people that are driving from far away sort of base their decisions on whether or not their car is going to get wet. Let's be honest, right? They don't want to dirty up their car, and they might not go. So with the weather of Monterey, it's pretty
it's a lot
dependable.
better. Well, for a racing fan, what was really cool about the event, it was 3 days of Porsche racing on track, and to your point, Vu, was all kind of the newer cars. But so the Carrera Cup was there, and they had 3 days of racing, practice, qualifying, and races, and then also Porsche's Sprint Challenge was there. Those are two series that typically run before other racing events. Like if you go to an IMSA race, they're probably going to be the Carrera Cup or the Sprint Challenge.
It's like the show
before.
opener.
Yeah, there's a show opener, and most people just don't even really know that's happening or what's going on. So, SportsCar Together Fest was an opportunity for those two series to be the highlight. So they got to be out there, and the Carrera Cup was the kind of the headline race, and it was fun for those drivers and teams to be having the premier slot in the racing schedule.
I do think it was the first ever televised PCA high performance driving event.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to get into. I was going to get into the fact that last year we had a club race at the event, but unfortunately they chose a date that conflicted with one of our big
Road America.
Road America club races, which was unfortunate.
Just up the road.
Yeah, it was just up the road, and for those that might be a bit sour about that, it wasn't PCA's choice. I mean, no. PCNA, again, there's only so many weekends, right? So many months, so many weekends, and you're going to overlap somewhere. Unfortunately, it overlapped with Road America, so we didn't want to have another club race this year and really, step on our own toes. So Mia Walsh and the executive council and our volunteer corps, they held a advanced HPDE.
Open only to GT cars.
Open only to GT cars.
Which some people complained about, but it's Porsche show, and
yep.
They dictate the rules, and it was a GT themed event. So we went through, not to get ahead of our schedule here, but we went through the Paddock, and it's a pretty tough driver's ed when we had a hard time telling the difference between Sprint Challenge and the PCA DE cars.
That's right. Because
at first I was like, no, this is Sprint Challenge.
I'm like,
these
no,
all look like
that's us. That's
legit
us.
race cars with cages. And then I saw one car in line that only had a roll bar.
Right.
And then I realized, no, this is the driver's ed.
Right. We were trying to get just some footage of cars getting ready to go on track, and we kind of knew their time. We roll over there in the golf cart, and I see them lined up. I'm like, that's our group. He's like, no, that's a race group. I'm like, no, that's our HPDE.
I'm like, wow. I said, I would have, my 964, I would have been like a rolling pylon in this group.
Well,
so were these GT3 Cup cars, or were these like GT3s and 2RSs?
They
or
had
whatever?
everything.
Okay.
But it had to be, the slowest was probably a GT4.
Yeah. And that's what was interesting was because I had the opportunity to drive Bob Rath's GT4 in the parade lap. And he tossed me the keys, and he's like, "Oh, go have fun." And as I'm lining up, I see him walking down the line, and I don't know if he was like really wanting me to go by myself, but there wasn't anyone in the passenger seat. But I asked him to come along, and so we were just having conversations while we were sitting in line. And he goes, Vu, this, because I asked him how the DE was going. He's like, "Oh, it's been great, but I am underpowered and I'm being overtaken." Man. To say that in a DE in a GT4,
and Bob's an experienced driver.
Bob is a fantastic driver. So yeah, that just gives you an idea of the quality of the cars and the driving that we had this weekend.
So I'm pretty sure the DE participant for this event, it had to be pretty cool to see that you're on TV.
Oh yeah,
at least a closed circuit TV at the facility. And what was neat was the producers were running every event nonstop. So when someone would spin on the track in the driver's ed, they would do a replay of that spin, just like they do in a race, which I thought, boy, it's bad enough.
We're going to have to see how we can. I'm sure that footage is recorded, right? It'd be cool.
It'd be on YouTube.
Yeah, we get that, or share that with the DEers.
So the actual week for us, or at least for Jim and I and Melanie, started on Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. We had a flight out to Indy. And it's a short flight, an hour and a half to Indy. Get to Indy, and same old deal. You get your rental car, and you drive to the track.
Okay. You said you got the rental car, and then you had a little drama.
Well, Jim had those famous words. Jim says, "Do you want to drive to me?"
No,
and I go, "No, I don't want to drive." He goes, "Well, I'll drive." So Jim drives. Jim makes it 10 feet out of the garage for the rental cars, and an airport authority truck was in front of us, and they stop.
Yeah, and it's number 960 too. I guess
And Jim thinks they're at a red light or a stop sign, so he stops behind him. And Jim's messing around with his CarPlay, trying to figure out how to hook up his CarPlay.
I didn't
and all
think
of a
you were
sudden,
loading up all the photos.
I hear Melanie scream, and I look up, and you see white lights coming towards us, and the truck is backing up.
Oh my goodness!
And before Jim like hits the horn, and the guy hits us. And
but it was just a love tap. It wasn't.
Yeah, it was a love tap. But we get out, and we just literally rented this car 2 minutes ago. So
doesn't look so bad.
The supervisor comes out. 2 supervisors come out from the airport authority. The police come out. No injuries, obviously. People driving by must have thought there must have been a big drug bust or something. And these were all good old boys.
Did they seat you on the curb?
No, but I sat on the curb. And
You did?
That's when it occurred to me, because they probably think it's a
Drug
drug bust of middle-aged guys bringing pot into the Indy. And so we were delayed an hour. They put the fear of death into Jim, that if he didn't report this to his insurance company, even though it wasn't his fault,
Right.
Or they had to prove to Indianapolis that he had insurance, or Indiana. If he didn't, then next time he would come into Indiana, there would be a warrant for his arrest.
Yes, I'm not going to the
You're not going to
SportsCar Together Fest.
So Melanie gets out of the car and forgets her phone and goes right back to the rental place to tell him, hey, we just been hit. We need another car, even though our car was fully drivable. So then Jim has to go after her, so I'm like stuck by myself with the police. Then I see him come back, and now they got the lady from the rental car place who really doesn't know what to do, but she's hanging out looking at her phone while the police figure this out. So an hour later, we're back on the road again with the new rental car.
This is like 9 in the morning.
Yeah.
So we get to the track.
All right. So did you end up going straight to the track? Because I thought the plan was you guys were going to Charlie Brown's.
No, we did go to Charlie Brown's.
You did? You still went to Charlie Brown's?
Of course. Remember this now. So we go to Charlie Brown's.
This is an insider tip. If you go to Indy, you got to go to Charlie Brown's.
It's not necessarily phenomenal food, but it has a lot of racing memorabilia. I don't think they make their pancakes good. It's not fluffy enough, their pancakes.
Oh, here we go.
Dense.
Here goes the food
But
segment.
that's my
if it's good enough for Roger Penske, it's good enough for you, man.
How do you know Roger likes it? I bet you Roger would complain
I saw
about
the
those
on
pancakes. They're not fluffy enough. They're too dense.
They're too dense.
It's like Amish pancakes. Anyways,
all right, so you got to the track.
So we have breakfast at Charlie Brown's. Get to the track, look around, see they have our tent already up, or you got to find our pallet, and so on. So luckily we got there early, so we're not in a hurry to do anything. So we're waiting for them to move our pallet over to the tent with the forklift. So we're doing some work inside the Porsche Zentrum, which is now all assembled, and they're just moving stuff around, but it's air conditioned and somewhat quiet. So after about half hour we're working, I said to Jim, hey, give me the keys to the car when you get my backpack. So I walk over to the car, and I hit the unlock button, get my backpack out. I go to lock it, won't lock. And I hit we have 2 key fobs on there, so I'm hitting both key fobs. I'm like, wow, how can both of them be dead in battery? So I hit the little button, pop out the key. I go to manually lock it, and it won't go in the... I'm like, this isn't even the right key for it. How do you lock these cars? So I walk back, and I said to Jim, I said, there's something wrong. We can't lock this car. I get him the keys, and Jim looks at the keys, and he's like, yeah, this is for the Toyota Camry that we wrecked.
So you guys took the Camry back and took the keys with you?
Yeah, we left the car there. The key.
Oh, my
So now
God.
we're looking at each other like, oh,
And
man.
this is like, what, 2 hours later?
Oh, like 4 hours later.
Oh, my God.
So we get in the rental car, and we drive back to the airport. They must have extra keys because the car was gone.
Or they just
Yeah.
towed it.
Or you have 4 hours to do whatever you want before you have to return it, right? Before they notice.
So, but in between then, the guy had already submitted the police report, but he made a mistake when he typed in the police report. He said that we hit the truck.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Melanie was.
Yeah, me.
Melody's on the voice prompt hell trying to get through to a person.
Oh, to correct it.
Yeah, because they won't put us in touch with anyone at the facility. So we're looking for the supervisor from National who put this in incorrectly. So when we get there, we explain to him, hey, you put it in. So he apologized. He goes, I'll fix it right away. And we got back in the car for the 4th time through the rental car lot. And they even knew us by now. And
I'm looking over my shoulder every day, and I know the cops are coming out.
yeah, we went
I mean,
back.
what are the chances airport security will back into you at the airport?
That's what I told
it's,
Jim. I said, luckily the guy didn't lie and say we hit him, because most of the times, you're right, Damon, that's happened to me. People lie and say you were into them. They're more likely to believe.
Yeah, because you hit from
Person in
behind.
front.
Yeah.
So when you were there early, I asked Jim a favor to go set up something for us.
The most important
Most
reason,
important thing that I was worried
The most
about.
important reason I was there for the entire event So yeah, I had the opportunity of pulling your Porsche bicycle out of the back of the white 968 from Silver Spring, and then put it on top of the car.
Yeah, so the Porsche Silver Spring had a 968 in the Porsche Classic Restoration Challenge, and on top of that car is my bike FS.
But the thing you don't notice is that Jim was in such a hurry to get this done to make you happy, you can't open up the hatch once this bike is on the rack.
Oh, correct.
And if you notice, there's a lot of stuff in the back of the hatch they got to get out.
I figured that was somebody else's problem.
Right.
Yeah,
well,
no,
they figured it out because it was
because
ready for the show.
rail up there actually slides forward or backwards, and to put the bike on, you have to slide the rail backwards.
Or it hits the
But
glass.
You have to slide it backwards to get the bike on it.
Oh, okay.
But if you raise the glass, the 968, 924, 944 has a big glass back there. If you raise that up with that bike on there, if you raise it up quickly, you'll just crack that glass.
Yeah.
That's expensive glass.
So yeah, you got to slide it forward when you open it up, close it, slide it back, put the bike on. But then I left all that stuff back there.
I'm happy to see it's not an air-cooled car as part of the restoration. I think last year it was all air-cooled cars.
I think that's why they chose it. They wanted something a little bit different.
It was gorgeous, and the blue bike just looked great on top.
It's a nice platform, huh? What else did you guys see while you were there a little bit early? I got in Thursday morning at the crack of dawn. Same
Personally,
flight.
whether it's Works Reunion or something like this, I like being there early because you see all the trailers come in, the cars coming off without all the crowd of people. I had a couple photos early where there's a 918 sitting there in the parking lot with nothing else there.
Yeah.
No other cars, no people. It's a great time to just see the unloading and setting up and everything.
So Abe from Porsche said, "Hey, you want to see something special?" I'm like, "Sure." So he says, "Hop in." So he took me on a golf cart to a garage that was closed, one of the IndyCar garages, and he brings me in, and that's where they had the Manthey GT3,
That
which
was a gorgeous car.
Yeah, beautiful. And luckily, at first I thought they were going to hide it there the whole weekend, but they ended up not only putting it on display, but giving people rides.
They took it out on track.
Yeah.
They did hot laps with it. They led parade laps with it, and that thing was beautiful. And I also got a glimpse of that on Thursday.
So what Manny and I are doing is putting a plug in for people to volunteer to help us early, because that's when you see the cool stuff. When there's 1,000, 2,000 people around you, around all the cars, it's hard to get a good photo or see everything. But come in early and help us.
Well,
and
I think our Instagram video that we did of the Manthey was on Thursday when no one was around the car. It was still set up.
The place wasn't open yet.
Yeah.
But they let people in who were volunteering, helping out, and so Harry Seasons came in, who was the event chair for PCA. He came in Wednesday evening. We went out to dinner, and the next morning, I guess we went to Walmart before.
we go to I think we go to Walmart every single day.
It's a tradition.
I felt Melanie Williams, our event manager, she will rival Vu for shopping in Walmart or Target.
That's a tall bar.
Yeah,
We had to talk her out of buying an air fryer, Pop-Tarts.
one basket's not enough.
Manny couldn't get it through his head that people eat Pop-Tarts without toasting it.
No one does that.
Yeah,
What are
I
you
do.
talking about?
It's been a while, but why not?
Why not?
That's when you're absolutely desperate.
Peel the foil and just
Mental
eat it.
patients?
They're better heated up, but I mean,
But you can still eat them.
you can still eat them.
Would you? So those of you that are listening, would you eat a non-toasted Pop-Tart? I would.
I'd
Let
rather
us
have
know.
it toasted.
You got to be really hungry.
It's got to be what is the brown sugar and maple?
Now
That's
he's
the
getting
one.
specifics.
Yeah,
I
that's the
prefer
one.
strawberry frosted, but either.
It's always got to be frosted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Man,
mean that's
we must be hungry or something. We keep going back to food.
That's just basic knowledge. Is that you have to toast a Pop-Tart.
You don't have.
Why is
to.
it called a Pop-Tart? Because it pops out of the toaster. It's a tart that pops out of the
I
toaster.
know.
Or it pops out of the packaging.
I can break a piece and pop it into my mouth and
Yeah,
eat it.
there we go.
No,
See?
nope.
And it's tart.
Okay, all right. So we're digressing here.
Anyways,
But volunteers.
Yeah, so we went to Walmart also, and we got our loaded up on the supplies, food supplies and water, and
Mountain Dew.
of course Jim and I went to the Hot Wheels aisle looking for.
always go to the toy section.
Boy, I'm telling you,
Slim pickings.
Well, there's too many people out there trying to find Porsche Hot Wheels. It's like
Yeah, but Manny scored.
I
got-
got
he
it was
got
slightly
the, Big
damaged
Pig
box.
917.
The set,
Really?
the majorette set.
Yeah.
We found that at Target.
You went to Target too?
Well, because Melanie prefers Perrier
You guys-
water,
you guys
and
did all
Walmart
the
did not
shopping.
have Perrier, so we went to I told her, look for a Target like Greatland. And
Now, didn't you guys look for Perrier at a dollar store?
yes, we stopped at. We had to pick up ice, so it was really early in the morning. It wasn't open yet, so we ate in the parking lot in this fairly disadvantaged neighborhood. And we go in to buy ice, and she asked the guy if they have Perrier.
The dollar
Perrier?
store. Perrier.
The guy looked at her and said, "Is that a kind of ice?" She said she told me she couldn't even look at my face because I'm like, you just seriously didn't go into this neighborhood and ask for Perrier water.
That's hilarious.
No, they did not have Perrier.
Wow.
So we had to go later that day to Target Greatland to find Perrier for Melanie.
So
yeah,
when
Melanie's pushing the shopping cart. Manny and I are running through Target trying to get to the Hot Wheels section first.
first dibs.
And he took the shortcut and got the reward.
So I was excited to see. We had talked on the the conference calls with Porsche for Sports Car Together. One of the topics was the RC racing experience, and they weren't so familiar with how this goes. And we hold these competitions at Parade, and both of my boys are well versed in RC cars and running the competition. So they actually did it on behalf of Porsche and ran the experience, and I was really amazed at how much Porsche invested in this. We had at least 10 RC cars that were built by Jim Osgood,
Who painted them
he
too.
painted every single
they
one
look
of them,
phenomenal.
set them up, built them, and got them ready for the boys. Got all the batteries and chargers ordered, and when we got there, they were all on the table. Then my boys tested the track out, and the track they built wasn't exactly to the specs that I had asked, but it was workable. It looked fantastic, but as you can see, for those that are watching on YouTube, it was a figure eight, which meant
Demolition Derby.
Demolition Derby.
Crash.
So we're like, man,
But not only that, but the walls were steel.
yeah, it's like, how long will the cars last?
No soft walls in this.
Also, the cars were unregulated, meaning that they could run at full speed the way they were delivered.
Which was 70 miles an hour top speed.
Yeah. So what we did was we went to Home Depot and figured out a mechanical trigger limiter, and so we got the speeds down to about 10 miles an hour, and people had tons of fun. We killed 8 cars, and they're heading back to PCA headquarters, and we'll rebuild them, and hopefully you'll see these cars at future PCA events. But it was a fun time. We had fastest time of day for adults, fastest time of day for children. We had some fantastic prizes for them. And like I said, we were like the busiest experience the whole weekend. Adults and kids loved it.
So the Porsche Hospitality, no, PCA Hospitality tent in the kids zone was right across from the GT parking.
Right.
Porsche had the parking lot we were in last year. They used for GT parking, and then we had our corral for non-GT cars that people paid for. And I think I would think they got their money's worth because they got the park right in front, and it was all with Porsche, so you didn't have to worry about getting door dinged. And the kids zone or kids area, which was for adults too, they had cornhole. They had these gigantic Jenga blocks that they made up with in the Porsche theme that people were having a good time with. So it was a great place to hang out.
We had 2 TVs, right?
Yep.
We watched the racing, and on one day we actually put on Formula One.
Sunday, yeah.
We had some snacks. We had some lounge seating. We
Face
had
painting and balloons.
face painting, balloons. We had yacht rock playing on the speakers.
Did you really?
I did. I played
Yeah,
yacht rock for a little
wow.
bit, not the whole time. I have like this PCA Parade music playlist that I also play. And there's one of the big juniors. It's a photo of Manny with Tina Turbo, or
Who was the
Target.
same height as me with their bun on top.
Manny was tall enough to ride.
barely. Yeah, so it was a great place where people just gravitated to. It was interesting because I went to the Porsche Zentrum, where supposedly all the action is, but they were all air conditioned indoors, so everyone was inside. But when you walked by, the place looked empty because no one was outside.
Well, the activities outside were not very full, but the activities inside were full.
Yeah, people were hanging outside instead of being in the courtyard. So you had like a Radwood display, but the only time I saw people there were the 2 guys from Haggerty.
Right. They had like 6 cars, nice cars, six
Yeah.
cars. Then they had Tag Heuer had a booth in at one end, and the other end was they had a DJ that played all weekend. They had the ice cream car. That was cool. I gotta admit, that was pretty cool. They had I think it was a Taycan, or was it a
I thought it was a 911.
no, the ice cream car?
Yes.
It's a big gap right there.
Really?
The ice cream car was a 911?
The one with the ice cream on the roof.
That was a 911? I thought it was
I think we need to.
I thought it was a big
Jim,
car.
I think it's an intervention time.
I think we.
Are
need
you
to-
sure it was a 911? Do we have a photo of the ice cream
Did
car?
you pass by
99.
50 and go right to 75 or 80?
99.
Could its engine start up, or
No, it was always parked. It was a 911?
It was
For
a
ice cream.
911.
Who can't get past the fact there was an ice cream car on top?
Well, I
You
just
looked
looked
at the ice cream. Look at the car.
So they had these like special flavor ice cream, like mocha metallic, and
Maybe you're probably thinking of the car in front of it that had all the PTS colors in every panel and had the cork interior. That was a Taycan.
That was a
That was a
Taycan.
Taycan.
Oh, okay. That makes
in
sense.
ice cream colors?
Man, this like getting older thing is. I'm still mid 40s,
We
ladies
could
and
do
gentlemen.
we
I'm
could
still
do
mid
flashcards
40s.
for
Mid
Vu.
40s with like 5 exits.
I'm
ago.
still mid 40s.
911
I will.
Taycan,
I will be mid
911.
40s until I'm 50. So they had the ice cream. They had Bill Patterson doing this huge.
I didn't realize
Right.
that was on a canvas. I thought he was doing it on the actual wall.
It has to be on canvas. It
Why
would be
can't he do it
it-
on the wall?
It would be such a waste.
Why? They leave it up permanently.
No, because they'll paint over it and do something else.
But
At
not
least-
if they had some agreement.
I don't think so.
Oh,
I
it's
think
gone.
that real
It's
estate is
probably already
quite
gone.
primo.
Yeah.
And then they had a display under the at the base of the pagoda, all the new models, and Michael Tam and product specialists were hanging around there. You could actually sit in the cars, unlike a typical auto show. So it was kind of cool.
Was a GT3 RS there?
No.
No, it
No.
wasn't.
Which was
Not
kind of
yet.
funny because everyone came
GT4 RS
But everyone
was-
came up and they're like, it's a new GT3 RS. And I was like, you would think for an event that's called a GT,
the
they would
celebration
have,
of the GT cars.
yeah, they would have the ultimate car. But
The 963
I should say I was
doing it.
not at SportsCar Together Fest. It's not like I went and forgot everything, but which is why I'm asking
So
questions.
why are
here.
you
We
in
missed
this
you.
podcast?
I don't
Just
know.
Kidding, just kidding.
We missed you, Damon.
There's some stuff that
just
you're gonna
sitting
hear.
Can I mention my Paddock tours?
not yet. We'll
Okay.
save that for later.
No. Manny says no.
And then so the air conditioning areas, just to finish off what was there, in the air conditioned area, it was like sort of like a U, and you had the
Zentrum.
the Zentrum, and it was a Porsche Classic Restoration Challenge setup, and they had the cars that made the finals, so to speak, that were there, and then
Plus our Classic Club Coupe was front and center.
Classic Club Coupe was there. Then you had like the Porsche driver selection. You had this art car with like all the words, the black and white.
Yeah, they
art
had
car.
that at Monterey.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it has a bunch of different words on it. and
like
there's an
inspirational
artist.
words
Yeah.
all over the car.
So Taycan, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course they had like a it wasn't an Overlander Cayenne or Macan, but it was
It's like a Viper Green. Or,
yeah, but it had like all the tints and everything on it. The latest rage, and at the very corner was a Manthey.
Yes.
All right, that was so cool. You kind of go to the bottom of the U. That was the driver's lounge where you could get your breakfast, lunch, and dinner was food open the whole time.
This was a great deal for the drivers and
Yeah.
participants because they got 2 wristbands for driver's lounge. So whenever
the-
they weren't on the track, they could go hang out there. It was always food, always drink, no alcohol, obviously,
Yeah.
since it's a driver's lounge. But
It was the
a great
ultimate
place to-
DE.
Oh yeah,
It was the ultimate DE. Like
For
you got to drive Indy.
$650, you got
for
the-
$650. You got to drive Indy. You got a garage. You got driver's lounge. You got special decals for your windshield and your doors. I mean, it was a great.
So next
great
to the lounge,
next to the lounge was esports.
Yep.
And maybe Jim can share what was going on. That was like a full production.
did you ever make it to the esports?
Yeah, so they had 6. I think it was 6 sim racing rigs set
Yeah.
up there, and they were doing a.
But these were like
esports
legit
championship.
Yeah, it looked like
cockpit.
Hollywood.
Yeah, it looked like real cars. There's a picture of it right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot more than last year.
It would have been 8 rigs.
Last year they had 2.
Yeah, last year it was
two
just 2.
motion rigs. This
Yeah,
time they
and
had
it was
6.
going on the whole time, and they had a full announcer.
So when we got there and we took this photo, they were interviewing. They brought in all the area champions. They explained to us, and they were interviewing them for media. And this was going to be like the finals, if you will, for the championship. And when you were sitting in the driver's lounge, there was no wall between you and esports. There was just a gigantic curtain, and it sounded like a disco that you
Yeah.
weren't invited to. There was like lights flashing and music and thumping and
It was
an
awesome.
announcer.
That's how we should do all of our events.
Yes, I'm sure our future president and the current president would love to have.
Let's see, and then probably the highlight of the Porsche Platz was having a special driver that Manny, man, I've never seen you so happy to be so close to someone.
If you would have told me 30 days ago that I would be meeting and interviewing Jeff Gordon, I would have never believed
And
it.
Lee Keen.
And Lee Keen.
And Lee
yes.
Keen.
I have met Lee Keen before. He's a longtime PCA club racer, but I've been a NASCAR fan since '08 when I got to drive Charlotte Motor Speedway at a driver's ed, and I realized that it wasn't just driving the circles; that it actually took a lot of skill. And I started watching NASCAR, and I had a great respect for what they do. There's no way you can't say NASCAR athletes aren't athletes, because it's 4 hours in that car, that close on banking with that's real G-force. I thought I knew what G-force was until I drove on Charlotte banking, and I realized what G-force was. So, anyways, we got word that 2 weeks or a week prior that Jeff would be coming to our tent. We'll be doing an autograph session. Things kept on going back and forth. He wasn't coming. He was coming. So then we find out he's coming on Friday, not Saturday. And then Vu said 2 hours before, he goes, I've nominated you to be the one to interview him while they're doing autographs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to fess up. I mean,
Voluntold.
I know of Jeff Gordon. I've seen Jeff Gordon. I know the car and stuff, but I was not well versed in Jeff Gordon. And of course, seeing, Manny's face light up every time I say Jeff Gordon, I'm like, he would be the perfect person to interview him. And of course, Melanie also. Between Melanie, Jim, and Manny, I couldn't find anyone happier to be around Jeff Gordon. And so they kind of took care of the whole autograph session. And
I can see you now. So what's it like to drive around in circles?
No, I mean, I know enough not to.
What's your favorite color in the DuPont rainbow?
I know not enough not to be an idiot around him, but I thought it would be much more genuine to have a true fan
for sure.
Interview him. And it worked out perfect. That way I took care of. Actually, I got to give him his honorary PCA membership card, so that was cool for me. Didn't require me to say anything other than welcome to the family. And then I took the photos and the video.
I have to say, he was a very nice guy.
Super nice.
And I told Melanie, I said, be prepared, because some people you see on TV sometimes aren't the personality you think they're going to be. Basically they can be jerks.
Yeah.
And so that's why they say don't meet your heroes. And
No, he was a super
he
nice
was
guy.
very, very, very generous of his time.
And for our attendees on Friday, what a treat it was for them, because it wasn't that crowded on Friday. And actually, I think there was 2 or 3 people that got in line twice, because we were only allowing people to get one thing autographed, and they had brought 2. And I said, hey, fair is fair. If you want to go back in line after you get your first one, and there's a fender came through, a bumper came through, and I was like, that's okay, because they followed the rules. But he was so nice about signing everything. And I got to give props to Lee Keen as well, because I would say the majority of the people there were for Jeff, but Lee was super hey, if you would like my autograph, great. Yeah. If not, I'm happy just to pass along. So that
a lot of people there knew Lee.
Yeah.
And I introduced them.
Yeah.
They all cheered. So he in the PCA community.
I would say in the PCA world,
yeah.
he's probably more not more well known, but he is well known. So
what did we learn? Jeff Daly is the Taycan Turbo S.
Yes.
Yes, and he bought the car, and so he was racing because he wanted to buy this car.
Yeah.
But Porsche Motorsports told him that the only way he can get the car is if he races. So this is one of the reasons why he said
so he was there for more than just autographs, obviously.
Yeah.
So he told the story at our tent that a friend of his has one of these GT3 Cup cars, and he had a chance to drive it and really liked it, so he wanted to buy one. But as Manny said, Porsche is very clear.
Yeah.
These race cars, these new race cars, if you buy one, you got to race it. They're not selling them to collectors. So so he wanted
but
one.
What I
he
thought
bought it, so
was interesting was the Taycan Turbo S story of why he likes that car as a daily driver.
Yeah, because it's quiet and he can think about things, and it's after being in a loud environment, it's very relaxing.
He can still have his performance, but he's around loud things all the time. So this is a car that on a daily basis he can kind of decompress. That's cool.
Yeah, it makes
really
it easier to listen to NPR on the way home.
but the funny thing,
Damon.
I was talking to Porsche. I said, what's interesting is people are under the impression that electric cars are like a cone of silence, when in reality you're still hearing road noise. You're still hearing
I mean,
road noise.
it's Lexus quiet. It's not like zero noise.
Yes,
There's a lot of misinformation out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's but anyways, so he he wanted this race car, and it's probably one of the reasons why he wasn't mixing it up at the top of the group, because he wanted to bring the car back
I was going to say, he wants
in
to,
the same place he picked it up at, and so
And there was a lot of fender banging in that.
yeah,
those
usually are
races.
when you have a one make series.
Yeah, there's a lot
But
of
what was neat, I
paint
saw
swapping.
him asking Lee Keen while in between while they were autographing hints on different corners, how he was taking. And Lee was very open with his advice. You know, Lee was at the top of the of the standings, so I don't think they were.
It was totally cool to see them interacting. So I guess they have quite an experience. Even Lee, like when people were asking for autographs, like they had one ear where they were listening and responding to the people getting autographs, but you could hear the other ear was them talking to each other. That's pretty cool. Like like they're having their conversation with each other, but still paying enough attention to the people that are.
So I talked to Lee before the interview, and I said, I know you're kind of humble, but you wouldn't want to admit this, but I said, in my eyes, you're the reason why this whole safari craze took off. Because I remember at the last Rensport, it showed up at Monterey that year, Car Week. He had the safari car he built.
Yep.
And but at the Rensport is when he parked it at the top of the hill, and everyone that was going to the paddock saw this G model 911 jacked up with safari tires and lights and whatnot.
And our video.
Yeah,
our video.
And that's
Our
what I told him. I
video had a big
said, his
reason
video
for
is one of our highest viewed. And he said this year they're delivering their 30th safari car.
Wow.
Nice.
So he's still building them. He said they still use SC and Carrera chassis to build it. They don't use the mid-year cars. So it turned out to be a profitable venture. His little experiment into the safari build. But yeah, that was definitely the highlight of Friday was Jeff autographing and taking photos. Right with the kids, and this is a legendary driver and beyond just the NASCAR world. Jeff Gordon, and even my wife, who doesn't follow NASCAR or anything, she read on the internet that he was going to be at this event.
So not only did we get an amazing autograph session, but the members were treated to parade laps. Those that signed up, I think it was $25.
Yeah, what a deal!
What a deal to drive your car.
Per lap, it's cheaper than anything. The drivers are the DE drivers and racers, of course, are paying a lot more per lap than what the parade
So we
lap
had,
is.
I think close to 70 cars on Friday, and well over 100 cars on Saturday and Sunday. Kudos to Melanie for we didn't have it. We had Saturday sold out, but Sunday we still had some room. And
I think we sold like 20 or 30
we
spots for Friday.
Yeah.
Because we decided to make them available up until the drivers' meeting, and people came up and saw the signed parade laps and asked about it, and for $25, like you said, you could bring your kids out because it was just parade laps. It wasn't anything competitive, and they do parade laps at Indy, usually at events, but it's up the whole circuit, not the infield. So it's rare that they do parade laps of the Formula One circuit.
So we also had Michael Tam present the GTS America edition to all of our members, which was cool because most of the people there didn't realize that car is going to be the grand prize for the PCA Fall Raffle. And if you're not familiar with the 911 GTS America edition, I believe 115 are going to be made, 15 go to Canada, 100 will be available for the U.S. And when we asked Michael Tam, how's the allocation? Are they sold out? He says, your best bet to get an allocation is actually to play the PCA member-only raffle in the fall, because it seems as though they are all sold out.
And how many were you making? 1,000?
115. 15 for Canada.
I thought it was like 1,000.
And 100 for the U.S.
Really?
I'm pretty sure. We'll have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure.
Like this little thing called Google.
We have this thing called Google. You have the laptop. You can check that out. Speaking of taking laps around Indy, I took 2 laps around Indy. I did. Porsche decided that they would add to the program and I had never heard of this before. It's called Ragnar Rally,
No one had heard of it.
and it's basically a running relay. You run for 2 hours, and you pair up, or you have a team, and you pass.
You were
on-
right, 115 copies.
It was 150
Yeah,
copies.
yeah.
There
For
you
me,
go.
not
I've heard of Ragnar. Yeah,
I've
people
heard-
do it
I've-
overnight.
Not,
and
not the
everything.
HBO Viking series.
I've heard
I know.
of was it Tough Mudder, right? I've heard of that stuff, but I've never heard of Ragnar. But I'm not a runner, so it's not.
Yeah, I knew
surprising.
somebody who did those, and they have teams, and they run all night or something.
So
usually.
so Porsche invited PCA to be represented, and no one raised their hands except for Aaron Ambrosino, our national vice president, and I figured I can kind of run. I'm in a shape, not in shape. I'm just a shape, and so I did 2 laps, and he did 2 laps, and I was walking the next day, so it was good. Success.
So you got a trophy for
I did.
participation.
I got participation award, and it's a grill badge. It's a cool SportsCar Together Fest Indy track run.
Yeah, hey.
Ragnar
But
grill
they had
badge.
100 people.
They had 52 teams, so about 100.
Did you
people.
run the oval or the infield as well?
I read both.
Both.
Yeah, and
Not the full course, though.
Not the full course.
No,
okay,
no.
I was gonna say 2 laps.
but I tried
mean-
to keep a consistent line, and I was right up on the curbing.
Yeah, I think shorter distance is the way to go here.
I was up on the curbing at every single corner.
You probably wasted a bit of energy then.
Well, what I heard was there was a lot of stopping for selfies. So
Well,
Oh.
well, when you're a runner like me that likes to maintain a steady pace but enjoy himself and make sure that he's able to walk the next day. Yeah, I took some selfies. I took photos of the curbing.
when else are you standing on the
Exactly.
Indianapolis
I'm
Motor
taking. I'm
Speedway?
like,
You got to do
I
it.
have no chance of winning
Yeah.
anything, so I might
Yeah.
as well enjoy the fact that I'm
Yeah.
out there with nothing around me.
You
Just
don't
get one of
realize
those.
you don't realize how big the track is until you're actually running.
Oh yes, absolutely. It is a big
Pit
track.
lane's pretty long when you're
I'm
running
going
it.
one direction and I saying I gotta go all the way back to where we started. Oh, yeah, it was a long one. All right, so let's talk a little bit about recent news.
Well, no, we're not done yet.
Oh, there's more.
I give you an agenda.
Oh, did I skip?
And you
Oh,
skip
wait,
over.
there's
All right, what
more.
did I skip? What did I skip?
Well, I would have put a shout out to all the volunteers.
Oh yes,
who
absolutely.
did who helped out with Sports Car Together, especially the guys parking cars, and they were out there in all types of weather early in the morning. And they were great to speak with. They were also a lot of them were fans of the podcast. They were even helping out the Indy officials because we had cars coming in that were confused as to where they parked, whether the GT cars didn't realize that where their lot was and what our lot was, and the IndyCar people didn't know what a GT car was, but our guys did, and they were out there
with their
helping
yellow vests
Indy.
on, smiles, welcoming everyone, parking cars
Yeah,
with precision.
and we even parked ours on the grass because we had overflow, so it was a phenomenal look of we were like busting at the seams with parking.
And that's where PCA really shines because the GT side, as you said, wasn't really managed. And when you have people park themselves, it's not very pretty. But our folks guide everybody in, so their cars are perfectly parallel and perpendicular.
Yeah,
and
so
it looks phenomenal.
Big thank you to all the volunteers, from Harry Seasons, the chair, all the way down to the person who
Chip
works
Henderson,
shifts. Yeah,
who
Chip
was-
Henderson was
yeah.
the whole 4 days
EC
with us.
members came in to volunteer as well. So it's the PCA way.
That's what makes us stand out with Porsche, is that we have this army of volunteers that come out and know exactly what they're doing, and they do. It's such a big difference when you have enthusiasts out there versus employees.
Exactly.
And these enthusiasts understand what the other enthusiasts want as far as parking cars and how to park cars.
And Porsche has so much confidence in us that once they've given us sort of our domain to control or maintain, they're like, what do you need? And then they leave us alone for the rest of the event and until we call out to them. So again, volunteers make it happen. So if you've never volunteered at a PC event, be it local, region, zone, or national, do it, because it's a lot of fun. Is it work? It is absolutely. It's going to be work, but you meet new people.
It goes by really fast.
It goes
and
by.
yeah.
You meet so many people. You see cool things, and because you're a volunteer, typically you get some kind of special benny, be it the yellow vest or access to something, and you'll see something. There's something hidden there for volunteers every time you go. You might get a cool volunteer shirt that no one can get unless you volunteer. So
So going back to the driver's day of why it was such a good deal, because it also got you access to the pagoda.
Oh, yes.
And the VIP suites. Now, Jim found this out on Friday afternoon, because that's the last we saw of Jim.
Yes.
Of Jim and Chip, because they would disappear into the pagoda, because they found out the pagoda also had better food.
Explain to people what the pagoda
The
is.
pagoda is a timing tower, but it looks like a giant pagoda that's, I think, 8 stories or 8 floors.
It's huge, yeah.
It's really, really tall. And great vantage points to see the race, or to hang out and just pretend.
All right,
you're
let's
really
be
rich.
honest. The food in the pagoda is where it's at.
And the views. The
So I
views
sent
are
all
phenomenal.
new members who are interested in joining up. I said Jim's on the 7th floor, I think, out by the balcony, hanging out, trying out the different. Because I think every floor had a different theme or food to it. Because I heard Aisha saying this 8th floor has better food than the 7th floor. So it was we didn't find out till we didn't head up there
Well,
till
we were
Sunday
so
afternoon.
busy. He kept talking about it, but we were just so busy that we didn't even head over there until Sunday.
We actually went there, so they did the GT Corral or GT Group picture.
Right.
They had a group picture that Porsche wanted to do, and they wanted to break the record. So they brought all the parade lap GT cars to the front straight and parked them right at the Yard of Bricks.
And the DE cars.
And the DE car, everything that was a GT, they wanted out there.
Yep.
And it was a pretty amazing sight seeing.
It was.
As far as your eye could see, almost stretching into IndyCar Turn 1.
It hasn't been officially confirmed, but I think they broke the record. I think they're like
If they count the
135.
GT3 Cup cars, they broke the record.
Yeah, and it was impressive.
Yeah, it was. But it was yet another benefit for the attendees. For $650, it was it was a steal. So the other thing I want to touch upon before we get to the news was the Manthey GT3 and why it was there, because this car is not street legal in the U.S. So when the first thing I saw it, I was shocked that it was here. And it turns out that from I heard from sources that they were testing the market to see if people would be interested in having their new GT3 converted, had the kit put in there for the Manthey. The only thing they wouldn't, the Manthey is pretty much aero and suspension.
Mm-hmm.
So they said the roll bar couldn't be installed by Porsche or dealers because of the regulations,
DOT
but
regulations.
the wheels, the suspension components, the wing is different than a GT3 wing. It's more aggressive. And the rear diffuser is different as well, I believe. So whether or not they got enough interest to go forward.
If they make that available, it'll do well.
So that wheel is actually made out of aluminum. And I asked why is it aluminum and not carbon fiber? It's really cost. It's just very cost prohibitive to make a wheel like that. And if you looked at how intricate it was, and trying to save as much weight as possible, it had like that 935 style aero wing, which is just for aerodynamics in the rear.
Oh, the carbon fiber cover right there?
The carbon fiber cover. Yeah, it was a spectacular looking car, and I was very excited to see it at the event because I didn't realize it was going to be there. So never thought I'd see one of those in person since it's a Europe only.
And what was more impressive, as we said earlier, is they took it out on track. Hot laps and then
Yeah.
parade laps.
Yeah.
I mean, that says a lot.
So why is it the Manthey racing stuff? It's suspension, aero, and I guess the inner roll bar or roll cage or whatever, half cage.
Yeah.
So I know the cage can't be put on, but what's preventing, like if it's TUV rated? Germany has stricter standards than the U.S. Like how did they say why it's not available in the U.S. at this point?
I would say that, or I would guess that the performance package that they do has to be tested against U.S. regulations, and that's a significant.
If you're
cost.
selling-
Even though it's aftermarket.
No, but it wouldn't be aftermarket. It would be a Manthey package from Porsche.
Well, what they're
But you can buy through Tech Equipment, which is technically aftermarket. So I thought that's how the conversion happened.
what my sources tell me is they're looking at maybe having it installed at Porsche Motorsport. So you buy the car as a GT3, and then you have it shipped to Porsche Motorsports in California, and they install it as aftermarket.
Yeah, that's what I figured it was anyway. So I guess in Germany or in Europe, it just comes that way.
It's sold as a Manthey, not as a roof would be like a different manufacturer.
But you get delivery and it already has the.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Like that'd be dealer installed.
Yeah.
It's almost like a nice consolation prize if you can't get an RS allocation. And you don't want a regular GT3 because that's too boring.
Let's be honest. How many people, I wonder, are going to be able to drive a GT3 RS faster than a GT3? Unless you're at the top level.
I want to try.
Me too. But
your all.
let's be realistic, right?
Yeah. Well, I think most of us here could probably just stay in a Boxster.
Yeah, yeah.
I do want to put a shout out to Mia and all the E drivers for that weekend. No incidents.
Yeah, they looked fantastic.
So we told Porsche we can run a good show, and we did. We had no, a couple spins, but no impacts, no reason why the event was delayed because of us. It was they behaved themselves well, which is impressive considering the machinery that was out there.
All right, ready to go to the news?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, so before we get into Jim's world with those two news bits, we did mention
I'm
earlier.
sorry, we got to stop.
Oh gosh, here he goes.
I put them on hold, and I said, now the one thing that we did do that I told Jim we'll save for later was, so Jim organized these Paddock tours.
Oh yes.
Usually they're pit laps or pit tours because we're doing it during an endurance race, and so they're 6 hours or however long, 24 hours. So you have plenty of time to bring these people out and time it properly when the cars are coming in for pit stops, so you can see a live pit stop going on and explain it to them. But with this race, these were all sprint races, so if the car came into the pits, the race was pretty much over. They weren't going to be competitive for the race, so there wasn't really an opportunity to show people what the pits were about. So instead, Jim took lemons and made lemonade and did Paddock tours. So Jim, tell us about your...
Yeah. Well, so the hot pit, the whole purpose of a hot pit tour is to help educate PCA members what's going on in a race. So as Manny said, in a hot pit, you're going and seeing the actual pit stop happen. And since there's no pit stops, it's like, well, let's still do the educational part. So, at our tent, which to me felt like just like an absolutely massive cars and coffee event. Everyone's standing around looking at Porsches. So I thought, well, let's, bring groups over to the paddock and actually show them what's going on. So each day I led one paddock tour, and I just asked around who wanted to go and ended up with a group of maybe a dozen or so people, and we'd walk over. But a lot of folks that come to SportsCar Together Fest, they're there because they hear it's this big Porsche event. They really don't understand the racing component. So on the way over, I spent most of my time explaining, what the Porsche Sprint Challenge series is and what's the Porsche Carrera Cup and how that's significant to the Porsche Motorsport pyramid, where you get a lot of these amateur drivers that want to race a Porsche and they buy a Porsche and they got to start somewhere, right? So the part of the Porsche pyramid is actually, the Motorsport pyramid's actually starting in, like, say, club racing, where you're in an amateur level and racing Porsches against other Porsches. So Porsche's created this pyramid where the next step up is the Sprint Challenge, where you're racing formally, before some of the Sprint Challenge racers at Indy actually were racing at the Miami Grand Prix before the Formula One race. So they get a chance to be racing in front of a crowd, but they're still amateurs. And then if they do well and they like it and want to spend a little more money, go to the next level, they go to the Carrera Cup, which is what we saw also at Indy. So the Carrera Cup was 992 GT3 Cup cars with Jeff Gordon racing. And if you do quite well on that and you want to keep progressing, the next level is Porsche's Super Cup. And then beyond that, maybe you get picked up as a factory driver. So I got to explain the whole pyramid to people on the way over to the paddock. And then each day I prearranged a different driver to actually talk to the group. So Friday was Lee Keane, Saturday was Stephen Ayers, and Sunday was Laura Ely. And Laura Ely is she was the only woman driver of that whole weekend in either the Sprint Challenge or the Carrera Cup. So it was fun to bring people over, explain what was going on track, see all the race cars. I was giving them kind of little spec summary, the difference between the 992 and the 991.2 GT3 Cup cars. And I said, it doesn't get any more confusing than that. That's a 992 and that's a 991.2. And of course the Cayman GT4s were there. So I got to share that and then introduce to a driver, and all the drivers signed autographs for everybody. So it was a lot of fun.
Another great highlight of why you come to an event and come as a PCA member through the Porsche plots.
The only ones that got paddock tours were PCA members.
That's awesome. So one more thing that we did, we talked about earlier, was part of the news as well because it was launched, I believe September 1st. We had the information, but under embargo we couldn't release it. So they actually brought the watch, Tag Heuer's connected watch, to the Porsche Platz tent and did a presentation and shared the watch with our members, and we saw how they married the mechanical, timepiece that we love, the Monacos, the Carreras, and they brought modern technology to connect with the two Taycans that they had. I'm proud to say that they were there the whole weekend, and the 3 watches that they sold, I believe, were to PCA members.
Yes.
I don't even know if they were intending to sell watches that weekend, but more so just being there to market and educate people on the watches. But our members were so excited about the watch. They're like, can we buy one? And they bought 3 of them. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, they're setting the watch up for them right there on the spot.
That was
Nice.
I wonder if Tesla has a watch for their owners.
cool. I have not seen a
Because that
Tesla
seems
watch.
right up their alley.
I
'Cause
think
how
Tesla-
connected it was,
I think Tesla's all about putting it on your phone. I don't think
That's
they have a
true,
timepiece.
yeah.
I think Tesla's about doing the bare minimum.
Yeah, and I see what you did there. All right, so let's move over to the topics that is near and dear to Jim's heart, and let's start off with the Red Bull news.
Or lack thereof.
or how Jim's buying everyone in the office lunch.
Yay, lunch for us!
I
Lunch for
owe
us!
a lot of people lunches. So I firmly believe I was the first one that said Porsche was going to get back into Formula One, and I was the first one to say Porsche was going to do this with Red Bull.
First
This
one in
was
the office.
2 years ago. So Porsche actually built a V6 that they were. This was all behind the scenes that they were planning to get into Formula One, and then that got shelved and things changed, and so I'd been watching this, kind of secretly watching, thinking they're gonna make a move. So I started betting everybody I knew
Yes,
lunch
you did.
that this was going to happen, and Ilko, if you're out there listening, I think I owe you lunch. So yeah,
I got
owe
that.
you
I was
lunch.
on that text string as well.
Yeah. So if you haven't heard, this is just as of a matter of a few days ago, Red Bull, they're top people that actually are on the ground doing the race development and managing the race team. Horner and Marco and a few of them have kind of stepped forward and said, we don't want to be beholden to anyone. We want to control our own destiny. And if Porsche doesn't want to just pay us to put their name on the engine, then we're not interested. And so even Mr. Red Bull himself was in favor of this deal with Porsche, but then all of a sudden everybody else got cold feet. And I don't blame him. As Ilko and I tease each other, it's like Red Bull holds all the cards right now.
Yeah.
They're dominating F1. So if I was doing that, I'd be in the same position.
But secretly, are you a little relieved that with the IPO going on too, that Porsche doesn't have one more thing to worry about?
Well, Manny and I debate this all day long. I'm a Porsche fan. I want to see Porsche do stuff. So if I could wave a magic wand, I'd want to see Porsche in F1 with their own team. But right now, they're the only thing they've got really cooking is to do the power unit development. So if they don't find another team to partner with, they don't have a team, and F1's allowing them to join as a power unit developer and not as a whole another team. So if Porsche can't find somebody to marry here pretty quick, and the way I understand it is the deadline is October 15th, where Porsche has to pay F1 to get in to be a power unit developer, which gives them voting rights on how the power unit stuff develops going forward. If they don't find some matchup, they don't pay,
They're out.
they may be out. Audi's already said we're going to develop our own engine without Porsche, and they haven't announced who they're partnering with, but it looks like it's going to be Sauber. But we kind of tease each other about this stuff where this is good for Formula One to get Audi and Porsche in, but at the same time, then you have Alfa Romeo and Honda exiting, so it's a net zero in terms of brand names that are involved. So it may not really be great for Formula One, and especially if Porsche doesn't. Now you're out Honda, Alfa
they've lost
Romeo
one.
and Porsche.
Yeah.
So I hold out hope that the next month and a half maybe something still happens.
I'm happy. I've said it from the beginning. I'm not in favor of them going to F1. Porsche is endurance racing. That's what they do best. I do think that Christian Horner will look back on this and consider one of his biggest regrets. Because he's not going to
statement, man.
If they don't win.
Well, he's not. They're not going to win. You can't. They don't hold it forever. And look at Mercedes. They were king dogs for what 7-8 years, and now they're third place and we're happy type thing.
No one wins forever.
7-8 years gets us into the next era of power units, though.
I think Porsche would have brought a lot to the table as an engine supplier with their engineering, but that's fine because they got Le Mans. I mean, I really wouldn't want Porsche to get into NASCAR, but that's not their thing. It's endurance and engineering.
What Red Bull's missing here is they've got their Red Bull power unit division that they're firing up, and it's said that they're already starting to develop a motor, the internal combustion motor portion of this for 2026. But a big part of the regulations for 2026 is the electric motor is going to be a lot bigger, a lot more horsepower, and Red Bull Power Unit doesn't have a whole lot of experience with that new regulation. Porsche's been doing this for a while now, particularly with Formula E, so they've got kind of a leg up on that. And the other part of this that's significant is 2026 are going to be using the synthetic fuels, which Porsche's developing. So this perfect super team matchup of Porsche Red Bull with the Red Bull Power Unit division and the electronic motor and the electric motor and the synthetic fuels, Porsche and Red Bull could have been a dominant force. So I'm with Manny. I think Red Bull's being very short-sighted. It's like we're king of the hill right now, and if you want to play ball, you got to do what we say. But 2026 could be a whole different world.
Yeah, Jim and I were talking before the podcast yesterday that there's probably a certain aspect that Horner and Marco are probably thinking they probably won't have a job if this happens. If Porsche has control of Red Bull, odds are Porsche will bring their people in, and so they're angling to keep their jobs, however short-sighted it may be. So it'll be fun to watch.
The next
the
month
deal
will be
isn't
interesting.
off, is it? Like this article had said that as well.
Well, this is as of 2 days ago. Red Bull's basically saying we're gonna control this. I'm waiting for Mr. Red Bull to speak up because he's 79 now, and there's been some speculation that he's trying to sell off some stuff. And
Porsche can still sign on as long as they agree to Red Bull's terms, from what it sounds like.
They could, or they could just sign on F1 as a power unit developer, and then they got to go find someone to run their engines. They might go back to McLaren and say, but it looks pretty clear that Porsche wants a Formula One team, and at least a majority ownership of a team. So if they could always back off and just sign a check and give it to Red Bull.
When you go to Germany next week,
I'll ask.
That's your
My
mission.
mission?
When
Got
you
it.
go to Weissach is the
I'll see if there's any
Get some insider
any
info.
F1 cars on the track at Weissach.
But I'm with Manny. Porsche's they've been doing endurance racing since day one, and that's where we get all excited. And we just found out that the new GTP 963 was testing for 2 days down at Daytona, and
they let a bunch of journalists in.
Yeah,
Not
we were
PCA,
at Indy, but yeah, so we're very excited about that. The car's debut will be January. There was some discussion that this 963 would be racing either at Petit Le Mans or at the Bahrain World Endurance Race later this year, testing. And Porsche just came out today and said, now we're going to stick to our training schedule, our testing schedule, and we'll debut at Daytona in 2023. So Manny and I were scraping together our quarters and nickels and dimes, and we're going to head down there for Daytona.
Take the bus down.
So why don't you drop us some knowledge update on the IPO?
So, so it's always funny talking about either Formula One or IPO because one day it's on, one day it's off, one day it's on, one day it's off. The IPO, the Volkswagen management met really late Monday night, and Tuesday morning we heard news that they have decided to proceed with the IPO, even though there's, as everybody's been saying, there's some huge financial market headwind. The stock market's not doing particularly well. So there's some speculation that might put a damper on the IPO listing. But we heard, late Monday night that Volkswagen said, yep, we're staying on course. But they also gave themselves an out and said, well, we're going to do the IPO list Porsche on the stock market late September, early October. But they also said, but if things change dramatically, then we can always pull back. So right now it's on. We'll see if that continues through the rest of the month.
Well, you know what's for sure going to be on? The open house.
The open house.
The open house is this weekend. So for those of you that have registered, we look forward to seeing you this Saturday
By
from
the time
10
you
to
listen
2.
to this, it'll be already over.
That's right. We'll have to share with you how it went. There's a special reveal. I guess we can say it because they'll hear this afterwards.
Yeah, it's in the garage right now.
It's in the garage right now as we have home the Classic Club Coupe. Which
At least
is,
for a little bit.
For a little bit. It's super exciting. Unstock November 13th in Burbank at West Coast Customs headquarters. You'll see information on registrations and all the event details there. We've dropped a number of videos since our last podcast. You want to update everyone, Damon?
Yeah, it's hard to keep track of all this now. So we had the Sally Carrera video. We had our contributor, Laura Burstein, dive pretty deeply into how it was made from the perspective of Boris Appenbrink, head of Porsche Exclusive, as well as Grant Larson, who is head of Porsche Style. So yeah, almost 20 minutes of their perspective. We also, if you want to look up some, I guess, an archival Tech Tactics Live, we had one with Jay Ward and Pixar where he went into some detail about a year ago or so, so well before this project actually came to fruition. So that was released yesterday. We have a new 1 mile review that Vu did in a local member's 1958 Speedster.
My bucket list car.
Yeah, bucket list car, and we have a new rating called Fun Factor, so that adds a new twist. We felt that, some cars that were not doing great on car show or daily driving or road trip scores, if only we had a Fun Factor score, that would probably balance it out,
Now, what car would you imagine would you give a low Fun Factor rating to?
I wouldn't say like all the way to 1. I don't think there's a Porsche where you can give a
My-
Fun Factor of
my
1.
Well,
Cayenne.
Porsche
I
bicycle.
was,
Porsche bicycle.
Cayenne.
I was thinking of a base Cayenne.
I was thinking of a
Yeah.
Porsche bicycle as 1.
No, that's high fun factor. Porsche bicycle.
Going downhill?
I mean, every Porsche SUV I've driven has been fun, but I guess a
But
first-gen
not a high,
Cayenne
but not a
is...
high number.
Yeah, not a high number.
Yeah,
It'll be fun, but not a
exactly.
high number.
Speedster,
Yeah.
Cayenne.
But so yeah, new 1 mile review. We'll have Fun Factor as part of all those going forward, which Saturdays at 11 a.m. if we stay on schedule. Then we have Turbo GT 1 mile review as well as an in-depth video on that. Carrera Cup USA we got to drive a few weeks ago. Will be coming up in September, and 2 GT3s that Manny and I drove. That is going to be in the editing stages soon. So a lot coming up in September.
Yeah, we also dropped the Works walk around video.
Yep, Works walk around. Yeah, so that's doing pretty well. I think it's got more views in the past week or so than the GT3 RS video we dropped recently.
Well, basically, if you didn't get to go to Works reunion, we take you down and around the stage, and then along one of the fairways of the judged cars. So you get to see,
Then we finish it up with the corral cars.
that was quite a hustle. We had to hustle quick to do that. So,
Yeah.
but it was cool.
I
And
have
I
to-
should say, by the time you watch this, the next 1 mile review is Manny driving a 968 Club Sport.
Okay.
Very cool.
Yep.
I have to give you a shout out, Damon. That e-brake news has got so much stuff in it these days.
Yeah, almost too much,
It's like
but
drinking from a fire hose. But I mean, it's just
Yeah.
a great, everything is all kind of baked into that one email newsletter. So
yeah.
well done.
Head to if you're not subscribed, you don't have to be a member. Go to pca.org and then head to the bottom of the homepage, and you can sign up for eBreak News. You put your email in first. That doesn't sign you up. You click the button, then it'll take you to a page where you can select which newsletters or emails you would like to be
Yeah,
sent.
somebody on Facebook asked, how do I find out when the next Tech Tactics Live is? And I said, subscribe to eBreak, because we always give 2 promos 2 weeks notice before we do the live show, or subscribe to YouTube,
Yep,
and
and
you'll see it on there. And the next one is, so when this comes out, it'll be next Monday. So when you're listening this Wednesday, so it'll be about the Classic Club Coupe.
A deep
We got
dive.
Deep dive, tell some stories of how it got produced, what it's like to work with Porsche, give a little history on our, going back to the 73T that we restored. So, yeah, it'll be a good show.
Yeah, we've asked before and we'll ask again. Please, and on all the platforms that we produce content for, please hit subscribe, please like, please give us 5 stars. We do read each and every comment. We certainly appreciate it. We even talk about the comments and chuckle, and when it's funny, and or if we got something wrong, like I think our last one, we kind of lumped somebody in a question or a statement, and they clarified it on YouTube. So that was cool. We loved the interaction. So
it was great meeting members.
Yeah,
at Indy who
at
came
Indy.
up. It was more than Monterey. I had people come up saying how much they liked the podcast, and they were referencing stuff that was deep into the podcast. So
Yeah.
I thought, they're really listening to the whole podcast.
They can't fake it because they knew those details. All right. So, anything else before we sign off?
No, and in fact, they'll probably tell us if they like Pop-Tarts warm, toasted.
No, I
or-
didn't
They're
say
better warm.
They
They're
are better
toasted.
warm, but they're edible. If you don't have a toaster, you can totally still enjoy a
Well,
Pop-Tart.
Hot Pocket's edible too, but you
No,
have
no,
to.
no,
they're not.
no. That's where I draw the line.
Oh.
So, folks, with
That's
that,
where you draw the line.
thanks for listening. If you aren't currently a PCA member and you own a Porsche, what are you waiting for? Grab that VIN. Head over to PCA.org. If you don't have a Porsche, we'll help you find one because we have a test drive program, and you can sign up there as well. Remember to follow our podcast Instagram page, behind the scenes photos and videos, Porsche Club Insider, all one word. You can send us an email message for suggestions, comments, likes, whatever, podcast@pca.org. Again, remember to put a comment. Remember to give us a solid rating. We would certainly appreciate that. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll catch you down the road.